Yo, what up, Facebook or Instagram or YouTube? I don't know where you're gonna see this at. But what's good, son? So I decided that I'm gonna go live real quick since everybody's talking about the Lion King. I figured I might as well hop on the bandwagon real quick and just talk a little bit about what I know about. You know what I'm saying? What's going on, Jason? I see you. And I'm gonna be real interactive. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna just talk to you so you could ask some questions. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the metaphysics of the Lion King because when you really sit there and think about it, what's up, boo? Wife on the line? Hey, what's up, babe? But nah, seriously though, when you think about the Lion King is hella deep. Like the Lion King got some symbolism in it that you can pull from. I mean, if you have an ear to hear, an eye to see, because all the best stories really pull from the great metaphysical stories, all the best stories. So I'm gonna just go straight into it. If you log it in late, clearly you got to start from the beginning to get everything. But pretty much in the Lion King, you're starting first off. They're lions, right? So let's just start there. Lions represent strength, courage. Um, it represents justice. Lions kind of represent royalty, majesty, being the king, pretty much, right? Like, who's the king of the jungle, right? And they say the lion, though, would probably be the elephant, but that's another conversation. So lions represent like royalty, majesty, and what you're seeing in the Lion King is a young lion is born of royalty. This is a fresh lion, a new lion. It's a new birth, and this lion is young and is destined to eventually be king. Is destined to rule everywhere the light touches, which I think is very interesting because part of royalty, as far as metaphysics is concerned, is dealing with the light, everything that's positive, everything that's good, right? That is um, essentially how you ascend is by focusing on that which is good, which is pure. Everything that you read in Paul and et cetera, right? So anyway, Simba is born, and he is born from Mufasa. Mufasa is teaching Simba how to be a king, right? Simba is not a king. Technically, he's royalty, but he's not a king. So, in other words, the kingly position, he's not at a maturity to hold that place, but he's royalty. So, with him being royalty, he has to learn the ways of being a king, which is very metaphysical because even in our birth, whether it be our physical birth or our spiritual birth, we are destined to be royalty. We are indeed royalty. But just because we're royalty doesn't mean we're ready to rule. Actually, if I could just take a quick tangent, that's part of the kind of the danger in greeting everyone as king and queen. Because while it's bigging them up, what I mean, it makes them feel good. They may not actually be at a maturity to rule. They may not be at a maturity to be king or queen. They're royalty still, but if you have an immature king or immature queen or inadequate king or inadequate queen, then essentially your kingdom is going to crumble. It will not stand, right? So there is a certain level of maturity that you need to have to even be that, right? So Simba's learning the ropes. Now, one of the characters that get in the way of Simba is Scar. Scar represents the lower principle, the dark principle, the evil one, if you will. Like some will use Satan. I know that the Egyptians have this concept of Set, right? And it's pretty much the lower principle. The lower principle is the obstacle that everybody has to overcome, especially those who are looking to be royal. If you plan on being royalty, you have to overcome the lower principles, right? So Scar gets to Simba when he's young because Scar has an understanding that when Simba gets of age, Scar will no longer be able to influence him, right? Right? That's kind of deep, right? Because that's exactly what the lower principles do with us. Satan, I'll use Satan because it's easier, right? But Satan comes at us when we are young because Satan recognizes that if we grow up, then he will no longer have influence over us. So Satan tries to get us when we're young. Now, Mufasa dies not because Satan was stronger than Mufasa, because the truth is, or Scar was stronger than Mufasa, because even Scar said he's not stronger than Mufasa. The reality is, Mufasa represents the royalty from without. In other words, the divinity or the Godhead from without, the God that you look to, that you aspire to, right? That's who Mufasa represents. And there's so much involved with that, right? But I'm trying to keep the video short because there is a God that we aspire to be like. But at some point, that God that we aspire to be like, if we're honest, whatever imagery we have of that God is already too small and it's an idol. So the idol that we project God to be has to die. So when that idol dies, it gives birth for the God in us to now come out, right? So if I fast forward just a little bit, this is why the priest, Rafiki's a priest, y'all. If y'all didn't figure that out, Rafiki is a priest, okay? He's a pastor. He's a spiritual man. Rafiki is the witch doctor. That is Rafiki, okay? He is the metaphysics of the Lion King, in case y'all didn't figure that out. Anyway, fast forwarding, Rafiki shows the God within Simba when Simba gets of age. But that's just fast forwarding. Anyway, so the idol dies. Mufasa became an idol and he dies. And when Mufasa dies, what Scar does, the lower principle, instead of killing Simba because he doesn't really have the authority to kill Simba, and that's something that we all kind of need to understand. The lower principles cannot destroy you. If they could destroy you, they would have destroyed you. Instead of killing Simba, what Scar does is he tells Simba to run. In other words, he encourages that Simba leaves the royalty so that the throne can be absent. Scar does that because he knows. So okay, let me back up some more. So in metaphysics, there is always this idea of us kind of being like a god king, like a Haru, or like a like someone who is born of the gods, ultimately to become one, right? So when Haru is a child, or when you are a child, then you're vulnerable to all the elements, right? But the goal is for this young being to eventually grow up and subdue the lower being. The only way that the lower beings, or the scar like, or the Satan symbol, the only way that that symbol can, or that principle can rule, is if the divinity decides to flee. In other words, when you allow your God principle to be coward, like when you suppress the goodness that is in you, when you hide the parts of you that represent royalty, when you run and you vacate your kingdom, if you will, then the lower principles take over. So what Satan does is he induces fear, because fear in most cases, not in all cases, but in most cases, especially in children, fear produces cowards. And as long as you're scared, as long as you are a coward, you will never be the king or queen that you are destined to be. You are born into it. It is your birthright. And when the idol falls, you're supposed to rise up and take that throne. But as long as you are afraid, as long as fear gets a grip of you, then you will flee, and you will ultimately adopt a philosophy that says, I have no responsibilities. And that's what Hakuna Matata represents, right? This philosophy of no worries. I don't have to do anything. I can just live how I want to live. Ultimately, when you live a life with no responsibilities, not only does your kingdom suffer, right? Because the lower principles, they're scavengers. They don't believe in balance. They don't believe in moderation, so they destroy whatever they get their hands on, right? That's the problem with sin overall. Like when we talk about sin, the problem is sin leads to death, literally. When you're sinning, you are killing whatever God has given you, right? So that's the depth of it. When the lower principles are ruling, then everything around you is going to lead to death, right? When you're living this idea of no responsibilities, then you give the lower principles that freedom, that reign to kind of destroy you, right? But not only that, if you notice, where Simba was, he wasn't feasting on the things that would make him a strong lion. He was feasting on bugs and crawling things and creepy things, things that are actually designed for lower beings. Simba became, if you will, a lower being because he was scared to combat the lower being, right? So because he was scared of Scar, and rightfully so, because Simba was young. This is not a shot, and I'm saying that it's not a shot. It's not. This is not to bring Simba down, because the reality is a lot of us were scared of Satan because we are still spiritual babes. We don't fully understand who we are, and that Satan doesn't have the authority to destroy us, right? So we're scared of Satan. We're running, and we're feasting on things that are really less than us, whether it be music, people, books, movies, whatever it is, we feast on things that actually were not designed for us, but were designed for lower creatures. So Simba here is eating all these bugs and whatnot, but he's still growing strong because he's a lion. At the end of the day, he is still a lion, and no matter where he is, he's going to show that he is indeed a lion. Because you can't, even if you're living less than who you are, you really can't stop being who you are. You'll just stop living like how you're supposed to live. This is why the good news, the gospel message is that we're children of God and that we come to Christ because we are of Christ, not that we're trying to be of Christ. We already of Christ. We know when we were born, when God created us, he created us in our image. So we are already the gods of this earth. We'll talk about that on Friday. Check out the Friday experience. So anyway, Nala is the one that comes to Simba while he is in the wilderness, right? In the wilderness that looks green, but really doesn't have the food that Simba needs to grow strong. Nala comes. So Nala represents the female principle of wisdom. Wisdom is always viewed as a female, Sophia in the Greek, etc., right? And that female principle is the principle that is equal to your royalty. When I say female principle, because we all have masculine and feminine principles within us, and I probably have to deal with that another time because I ain't trying to make this long. Actually, I talked about it on the Friday experience, so y'all should check that out. In the Identity Crisis Part 1, I talked about the masculine and feminine principles being in all of us, right? So Nala represents the feminine principle of wisdom that has come to pull Simba back to where he belongs. So that's how wisdom works. Could the Lion King be perpetuating? Yes, yes, yeah, I could see that. Break that down a little bit more though, Gary, so that I can build better with you. Um, but anyway, yeah. So the female principle comes, and if you listen to Nala, Nala is speaking wisdom to Simba, but Simba is not receiving it from Nala, not because of Nala, but because Simba lacks a knowledge of self. And the principle here, the metaphysical principle here is when you don't know who you are, wisdom is of no avail to you. Wisdom is only for the one who recognizes themselves. If you don't know that you're royalty, then you don't see the use of wisdom. A fool will never appreciate wisdom, right? So this is why in Lion King, Rafiki comes, the spiritual man comes, and he says, "Who are you?" He focuses on reminding Simba of who he is. And when Simba looks in the water and sees himself as he is, there's not enough. Simba had to see himself as his father, meaning Simba had to see himself as divine, as the God within. He looks and he sees God in him, and then he looks up and sees God speaking from above. So we get the confirmation, not just from within, but also from without, a reminder that you are my child. That gives Simba the energy now to go back and to claim what is rightfully his. Because mind you, Scar is only king because it is believed that Simba is dead. But once Simba proves to be alive, then Scar can no longer be on the throne, right? So are y'all getting this metaphysical stuff, right? When God raises from the grave, then Satan has no more authority, right? Yes, Gary. Yes, Gary. Very good. Just like Black Panther. Because all the great stories follow these metaphysical principles. They all do. The Jesus Christ story is the best story in the world because it is the epitome of the metaphysical principle. Right? So I'm preaching your movie, Jay. Yo, the movie preaches itself, you know what I'm saying? So when Simba comes back to take what belongs to him, which is really our resurrection, that is our rebirth. That is when we're born again, right? We go back to take what's actually ours. And I want to be very clear. If you're trying to take what doesn't belong to you, that's stealing. And based on divine law, thieves will never be rewarded. In fact, thieves are only rewarded with death, right? So you have to understand here and here in your heart, right, that what you're fighting for is what actually belongs to you, right? All the happiness, all the joy, all the wealth, it's already yours. If it's not yours, you need to stop fighting for it. If you believe it belongs to the 1% or it belongs to the mainstream society or it belongs to a special group of people, if you honestly believe that and you're not a part of that group, then you're promoting thievery. You're like theft. You're promoting theft. And the divine energies can never support theft. But if you recognize, no, this belongs to me, I am worthy of receiving these things, then you have all of that which is God behind you, right? Okay, boom. So when Simba is resurrected, he's born again. He's reminded of himself, and he's not just reminded of himself, but he is reminded that Mufasa is within him. Then he goes to fight Scar, and what Scar does is remind Simba of why he ran in the first place. So what you're dealing here is the breakthrough. A lot of you probably, I mean, churches talk about breakthrough, but they don't really break it down. A breakthrough is when you are going through a tough spiritual part in your life in which every bit of shame, every bit of guilt that has been haunting you reveals itself. The purpose of this breakthrough is so that you can, number one, conquer your shame and your guilt, number one, but number two, to also know that you have nothing to be ashamed of. Okay. 'Cause I know I already lost some people, right? The question isn't about whether you did something right or wrong. That's not the question. Some of you have an expectation about yourself that your maturity can't match. You're too immature to live how you think you want to live. And you feel like you should have came out the womb perfect. You felt like you should have came out the womb ready to conquer the world. So natural law teaches you that that's not the case. In fact, when you come out the womb, you are the most vulnerable that you can be naturally and spiritually. There is a growth that needs to come. So all the guilt and shame, all the things that you did while you were in darkness, all the things that you subscribed to before you knew who you were, or all the things that you subscribed to when fear took over you, these are products of the scar of the evil one. When you recognize that that's not you, you have to learn how to let those things go. Because those things are attachments that came from Scar. When Scar revealed that he was the one responsible for Mufasa's death, it lifted Simba away, like it lifted the guilt and the shame away from Simba. Simba realized, wow, I'm not the one who's responsible. That was Scar. And because Simba is grown, Simba is no longer a cub, but a full grown lion. He's strong enough now to fight Scar. He's strong enough to subdue Scar. Now notice what happens. When he subdues Scar, he doesn't even destroy Scar. Rather, he allows the minions that Scar was ruling to destroy him. So, okay, hold on. I want to read what Gary said. Let's say that again, bro. Some of us have an expectation of ourselves that our maturity can't match. Yo, that's real, dog. That's real. That's real. Now Simba could have killed Scar, but the truth is the way Scar was living, the ones that Scar surrounded himself with are capable to destroy Scar. So all Simba had to do was put Scar back into the hell where he came from. And the minions did what they were supposed to do. What am I saying? The truth is a lot of us, we're here trying to destroy Satan in our lives. And we don't realize that there's already a lake waiting for Satan. There's already a pit waiting for Satan. Like it's prepared for him. And the fire is going to do what it's supposed to do. All you have to do is learn how to kick Satan out of your territory. You got to learn how to get the devil out of your territory, right? Out of your territory. Get Satan out of your mind. Get Satan out of your heart. Kick him out because he doesn't belong there. There is already a place where he belongs in which he will be destroyed. But it takes courage to fight against the one that brought fear, right? You have to have a courage and a maturity within you to fight the one that caused you to run. And the thing that brings the courage to you is a knowledge of who you actually are, not who Scar says you are, not who Satan says you are. It's a real knowledge of self. Anyway, after Simba destroys, defeats Scar, and now he's king, the territory is restored again. Now, if you watch the movie, whether you watch the new one or the old one, you saw that it was desolate. There was nothing there. It was a wasteland. But when Scar was removed, then Simba with Nala, remember Nala represents the feminine wisdom principle. So Simba with Nala, with wisdom, was able to restore the kingdom. So what I'm saying is once you learn how to kick Satan out of your mind and out of your heart, then the things that you actually have authority over, you will restore those areas, whether it be your marriage, whether it be your family, whether it be your business, whether it be your finances, whether it be your career, whatever it is. If you have authority over it, if it is a land that God gave you, if it's dominion that God gave you, once you kick Satan out of your mind and out of your heart, then with wisdom, you will be able to restore the area. And that is, my friend, a very basic, so we could even go deeper as far as Simba. I'll just go there since I got a little bit of time, right? Simba found himself by looking in the water. When he looked in the water, he saw Mufasa. The water is a recorder. The water always represents eternal knowledge, purity, washing yourself. But water is known as the divine recorder. This is why even in the Bible you see them praying around water. This is why you're baptized in water, because the water is like a divine recorder. So sometimes you have to go back to the water to see who you are. The water will bring back to remembrance, at least in the metaphysical sense. The water is a representation of the flow, the energy stream, and you go back there, back to the source of life to find yourself. So there's so many symbols in the Lion King. I think I'm just gonna stop there because I don't want to lose anybody. If y'all had no questions, I'm gonna get off real soon because that's pretty much it. I didn't like the new movie, by the way. I thought it was trash. I actually think the new movie would make a great audiobook, but as a movie, I wasn't feeling the expressionless of the lines. Anyway, I'm done, y'all. I'm about to go shower. Just came from the gym. I will holler at y'all later. Peace.